Hi there. Welcome to week 6 of Corporate Social Responsibility and Social Entrepreneurship, where we'll be taking a deep dive into good leadership in the corporate world and then pivot to take our next steps with the social entrepreneurship side of the equation. There are 2 activities this week. We'll be exploring 3 aspects of positive leadership, and then you'll be piloting your prototype, often called discovery in the world of entrepreneurship. Let's start with CSR leadership. If you are innovating within your organization, we call that intrapreneurship. Good leaders create a culture of intrapreneurship to empower and motivate their employees and to stay on the cutting edge of their field. You read about purpose-driven leadership in this week's readings in the textbook. Purpose-driven organizations are successful because everything comes from their why, their products and services, and how these are developed. People like to buy things from companies that have strong, positive purpose that aligns with their values and improves the world, not just the company's bottom line. And as Simon Sinek has said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The last form of leadership reviewed in the textbook was conscious leadership. Conscious leadership comes from John Mackey's concept of conscious capitalism, which takes a holistic and positive view of capitalism. When Mackey started Whole Foods, he was determined to show that it was possible to have a for-profit business that took care of its customers, employees, surrounding community, and the environment. Through his work on this business, he developed 4 tenets of something called conscious capitalism. A little more on Mackey's concepts. Start at the top left. Businesses that want to be sustainable need to operate from a higher purpose. Human beings are motivated by meaning, and so a higher purpose inspires, engages, and energizes employees and customers. They should also have a stakeholder orientation that takes all stakeholders into account, and a conscious culture that embodies strong values and a positive vision of the future. Finally, you read in the textbook that conscious leadership is an integration of transformational leadership, responsible leadership, purpose-driven leadership, servant leadership, and authentic leadership. You can go to the Conscious Capitalism website for more info. So if you're going to become a conscious leader, whether within a company or as a social entrepreneur, you need to develop innovations that create value for your stakeholders. And so consider your SDGs. What value can we create? What is the adjacent possible? This is a space of possible futures that are adjacent to the current reality and are near-term potential solutions that surround any given situation. Hopefully, you've been considering viability with your innovation. And your innovations might not completely solve the issues within the SDG that you've been exploring. But you expect that your innovation will reduce your stakeholders' pain and provide them with a gain that will delight them. But what would be the next steps that would be adjacent possible? Given the research you've been doing over the last few weeks, consider whether it's better to develop your innovation from within a company as an intrapreneur, using the resources and support that are already available, or to dive into the adventure of starting your own business as an entrepreneur, where you get to be your own boss, but have to build everything from scratch. What would help you decide between these 2 exciting paths? So these are the questions you'll have in CSR Research 6. Consider the best and worst businesses in your experience. How did the leadership in the worst businesses violate the good leadership discussed in the textbook? And what did the best businesses do that inspired you? And then answer the following questions on your project. What is your why? And should your innovation be developed from within an organization, and if so, which one? Or should you develop it as a social entrepreneur? Please elaborate. This is an individual assignment. No replies are required. Now let's shift into social entrepreneurship. We are in the last phase of human-centered design thinking, and that is testing. Step 1 this week is to create a test plan. Start with your pilot strategy. Who are the stakeholders who can test your innovation? Well, this is easy. If all of you can answer the questions from 3 of your colleagues, and you thoughtfully select colleagues who may not have responses, you should all receive some replies. But how many do you need? Well, let's try for at least 3. And if you don't get 3 replies to your questions, then absolutely you can ask anyone handy who might benefit from your innovation, or be able to role play a stakeholder who could benefit. This can be family, friends, co-workers, club, congregation members, anyone. Then prepare your pre-brief. How are you going to demonstrate your prototype? Give your stakeholder a walkthrough or talk through the use of your innovation. Have you visualized the future and any outcomes you can measure? So then develop your measurement plan. Have you thought about how to measure the desirability of your innovation? What will measure the impact of your innovation on the SDG in your setting? Have you created a form to help you analyze the responses to your questions? And finally, we have your debriefing. Let's talk a little more about each one of these. How do you do a walkthrough or a talk-through? Well, you'll want to craft a narrative that brings your innovation to life. Start with something that will get your stakeholders' attention and appeal to their values. This can be a story. Like, imagine someone who is having this horrible problem and gets the opportunity to try your innovation. Be sure you are clear about the SDG and the setting where the prototype would be used. You can include visuals of your prototype, photos, drawings, videos, storyboards. You might use numbers that show how many people can be helped, and provide a demo of how your prototype works and how it will help people. Use a checklist if needed to guide your stakeholders through the use of your innovation. Make sure that they look at everything that you want them to see. So have a conversation with your stakeholders after they test your prototype. Create 5 questions for your assumed stakeholders. Use your questions to measure the stakeholders' reactions and the outcomes of your pilot. You can use your storyboard, or you can create a flowchart to identify where your stakeholders will experience desirable results while testing your prototype. Then consider, what questions would you ask to find out whether your prototype could ease someone's pain or provide a gain? And where would you measure the sustainability impact? That is, how does it affect the SDGs in your setting? When you have your prototype, narrative, and questions, you're ready to test your prototype. Your final post will be a debriefing from your pilot subjects. Put your prototype in front of a stakeholder and get some honest feedback. Then we need to capture the feedback. So ask yourself, what happened? Who, what, when, where, and how? How did the stakeholder feel when trying out the prototype? And how do you know that? Does it solve or significantly help solve the problem? And how can you improve your prototype? So these are the requirements for Innovation 6. First, you have your initial post, which is your narrative and the post-test questions. The narrative is the walkthrough or talk-through on the use of your prototype with any stories, visuals, demo, and checklists if needed. The questions are the 5 questions that you want your testers to answer after they try your prototype to get their reactions and their suggestions. For your next 3 posts, try out 3 prototypes, and then for each prototype, reply to the questions that the innovator wants you to answer about your experience. For your final post, write up your debriefing. What happened this week? How did the prototype testers react? Did it help solve their problems? And what do you think you need to do to improve it? So now it's your turn. We have CSR Research 6 and Innovation 6. Have fun this week. Bye now.